Begin the Gemara today, 2 lines from the bottom of the final from it Beis, my timer. The Gemara here brought the Milah of the Yidden in the Midbar, that actually the Yidden could not do a bris Milah in the Midbar. So when they came to Eretz Yisrael, Yeshua did the bris Milah for the Yidden on Yer Aleph Nissen. So here the Gemara asks the question, why did they not do a bris in the Midbar? My time, uba midbar that is, uba midbar my time mahol. So in the midbar, what's the reason why the Yidden did not make a bris milah? So or the reason is mishum chulsha deorcha, because of the weakness of them traveling from one place to another, so they could not make a bris. So the Rishonim point out, even though you do find that the Yidden were in certain places for a very long period of time, and they had enough time to do a bris without having any chulsha deorcha. But they never knew though. It was al pi havai yachna, al pi havai yisol, so they could have been in a place for just one day and continue moving further. So they never were able to rely on the fact that they're going to stay there to make a bris. Yibai say, another reason is mishum deloi nashav lahu ruach tzefainis, because when they were in the midbar, the wind that comes from the north did not blow for them. So Rashi says this is a wind that it's a very good wind. It's not too hot, not too cold, and it's good for healing a wound, and therefore it's important, it's necessary to have when you make a bris. So they didn't have this wind that is when they were in the midbar. Tanya, all 40 years they didn't were in the midbar. They did not have this wind coming from the north. My time, what's the reason? Either the reason is because the Yidden were rejected from the Eibishter because of the chet of the Egel, so they were not fitting to have this wind coming from the north. And Rashi says that this is a reflection of a Or Noiga, a revelation from the Eibishter that the Yidden were not zeicha to. Or another reason is the lenivder anani kovet, because they were surrounded by the anani kovet, and the Eibishter did not open up and separate the anani kovet to allow this wind from the north to come to them. So therefore they couldn't do the bris. There's a big machlekes rishonim over here, benigay to this, that it says that the Yidden did not have a bris. Does that mean that none of the Yidden in the midbar for all 40 years brought a korban pesach? One of the conditions to bring a korban pesach is to have a bris first. So seemingly, based on what the Gemara says, they did not make a bris, so they did not bring the korban pesach, right? And that's what it says, that they only, it says the first time, Bashana Shenis, only the first year after they came out of Mitzrayim, they brought a korban pesach, and then there was the story of Pesach Sheni, but following that, they did not bring a Pesach Sheni. That's what Reiv Rishonim say. But some Rishonim say the war Yidden that did have a bris. Most of Klal Yisrael maybe did not, but there were those that did, and those that did brought the korban pesach. Only those that didn't did not. But you see, it's not only that you have to have a bris, but any of those Yidden that had children in the midbar, and the children don't have a bris, that already doesn't allow you to bring the korban pesach. So there's a machlekes Rishonim about this. Taisus here touches upon this. Other Rishonim here. Rav Papa says, Hilkach Yayim Diva, if it's a cloudy day, the Yayim Shusa, or if it's a day where there's a wind that comes from the south instead of the wind from the north, the wind from the south is the opposite. It's not a good wind. It's not going to help a person heal properly by a bris. Loima linam bay, you do not make a bris on this day. And also v'loim suchrinon bay, you should not let blood on this day. Hakozas dam, which a person becomes very weak by this, and you need to be properly healed. But v'ha'idne, and now in our times, the dosher be'rabim, that many have already went in this way, many have make a bris even if it's windy from the south and even if it's cloudy. Shoyme p'sayim Hashem. The Eibishter protects those that are not careful. They're doing a mitzvah, the Eibishter protects them. Or even not a mitzvah actually, even over here benigay to akazas dam. Taner Rabbanan, so we learned in the Braisa regarding this. All these 40 years, the Yidden were the midbar. There wasn't a day that the Eibishter didn't bring out this wind from the north at Chatzais Halayla. So even though we just said that during the day that wind did not blow, for the reasons we just said, but at Chatzais, that northern wind did blow. Shenema, as it says, this is going back to when Yidden were in Mitzrayim, when it came to Chatzais, and Makas B'chayris took place. So the Gemara asks, "My Talmuda, how are we learning from this pasuk regarding Makas B'chayris that also when the Yidden were in the midbar there was this special northern wind that came for them?" What this pasuk is telling me is the Eis Ratzon Milsehi. The fact that Chatzais Halayla is a Eis Ratzon, and therefore Makas B'chayris happened at that time, so it's an auspicious time, and therefore this Ruach Tzefainis also came for the Yidden when they were in the Midbar. Rashi actually says that it's not only when Yidden were in the Midbar, but this is Bechlal, every single night at Chatzais HaLayla, there's the northern wind that comes. There's the famous Gemara in Brachas that speaks about David HaMelech that had a harp, and that he woke up from the wind that blew at his harp at Chatzais HaLayla. This is this wind over here. Over here it says the Arba'im Shana, specifically because before we said that Yidden did not have this Ruach Tzefainis the entire 40 years, so the Gemara wants to tell you the Chiddush that there wasn't by day. But still, at the Eis Ratzon of Chatzi HaLayla, even when the Yidden were in the Midbar and they were Nezufim, according to one opinion, that's the reason they didn't come, but nevertheless, the Yidden did get this wind at Chatzais HaLayla. Amar Avona, going back to the halachis we spoke about before, benegeh to an oral eating truma. So an oral is not allowed to eat truma. So Avona says, Dvar Teire, so now min ha-teire mashuch, a person that had a bris, but he drew back, he brought back that foreskin to cover it, so he's not anymore, he doesn't look like a person that had a bris ever. Eichel betruma. He could, min ha-teire, he still can eat truma because he had a bris done for him. But midivrayim, but midrabanan, gazru alav, they decreed upon this person that he should not eat truma mipnei shenirek ha'aral, because he looks like a person that never had a bris. Meisvei, so they asked an Rav from this brayse, it says, Mashoch tzarech sheyima. The brayse says a person that pulled the foreskin back, so he has to do a bris again. So it seems from here that even minatayre, the bris is not done, and therefore he has to do a bris again. So the Gemara answers, no, midrabanan. When it says tzarech sheyamayel, it doesn't mean that minatayre he has to do a bris again. All it means is midrabanan, they require him to do the bris again because it looks like he never made a bris. The one that asked the question from this brayse, what was he even thinking? Why would he think to say that this brayse is saying that minatayre he's going to be a oral? The brayse uses the expression tzarech sheyimayel. If it would mean to say that minatayre he's not a mahol anymore, the brayse should have just simply said mashuch, that a person that pulled the foreskin back is a oral. So tzarech is pretty clear that it's only midrabanan. So why was he even asking from here? As Gemara says, so tzarech katani. All it says is tzarech, that he has to do a bris again. And for the Gemara, katoi b'seife. Reason he's asking from here is because he made a mistake based on what it says in the continuation in the seifa of this brayse. What does it say there? Rabbi Yudah says lo yimayil, that a person that's already an adult and he pulled back the foreskin, he should not make a bris again. This is a sakana that when he cuts the foreskin, he may cut the aver itself. So they said to Rabbi Yehuda, no, there's no sakana for this. We know in the time of Ben Kuziba, many made a bris even though they were adults, and this is also a story over there that happened that the Romans decreed upon the Yidden that they should be moishech their arla and they should appear that like they didn't ever had a bris, and then after Ben Kuziba fought off the Romans, and the decree was annulled, so then the Yidden made a bris again. And Vailidu Banam Ubanis, and they gave birth to daughters and sons. So we see that in the times of Ben Kaziba, the adults made a bris. So it's not a problem. And then the Braisa finishes off, why does a mahol, again, not a mahol, a mashuch that is, a person that pulled his foreskin, why does he have to make a bris again? Shanema himoil, yimoil. The pasuk uses a double lashon that you should make a bris. That means a filamei pamim. Even if it has to be done 100 times if you pull the foreskin back. And Vayim, there's another pasuk that says, as brisi heifar, that you annulled the covenant by pulling back the foreskin. L'rabis is a mashach, and that is coming to add that even a person that's mashach, he also has to do the bris again. So because in the seifa of this brayse, it brings these psukim, it seems like that the brayse is saying that it's a mitzvah min ha-Torah. But really the brayse that brought these psukim is just an asmachta, it's not a chiyuv min ha-Torah. Now the Gemara explains, why does the brayse bring a second pasuk? Why isn't it enough to learn from the pasuk himayel yimayel? Because if you'll argue and say, hi, himal yimayel, this double lashon of himal yimayel does not mean a person that pulled his foreskin back that he has to do the bris again. Rather, l'rabbis tzitzina ma'akvim esamila. Maybe this comes to include also, like we said before, person that has tzitzin, this piece of flesh from the foreskin that are not fully removed, and they hold back the milah of being fully done, that's what the pasuk is saying, that you have to fully get it done to fully remove it. But Lav Dafka is referring to the mashuch. That's why it brings the second pasuk of as brisi heifa. Tashema, so therefore brings the pasuk as brisi heifa l'rabis es ha-mashuch, to say that a person that pulled his foreskin back, he has to remove it again and make a bris again. So now the Gemara concludes the inyan here and explains, benegeh to the one that asked the question from this brayse. So who sava midikanasav la ashas kra, because in this brayse it brings psukim doiraisihi, that this is minat Torah, that you're mechuyev to do the bris again. And v'loihi, but he's not right, midrabanan. The requirement of doing the bris again is only midrabanan v'kra asmachta balma. And the pasuk is just an asmachta. Chazal are relying on this, on the lashon of the pasuk for the takana that they said. Meisvei, the Gemara asks another question on the halacha of Rav Huna. Again, Rav Huna said that a moshuch is not allowed to eat truma midrabanan. So the Brisa says, tumtum ein eichel betruma. Person that's a tumtum, so you don't know if he's a zachar or a nekeva. Possibly he's a zachar, but it's closed up, so maybe he's a oral, so he can't eat truma. But nashav, avadav, his wife or his servants, eichlen, they do eat truma. Mashuch, a person that pulled the foreskin back, v'neilet kishumal, a person that's born with a bris, hare elu eichlen, they could eat truma. So the Brisa here is clearly saying, not like Rav Huna, Mashuch could eat truma. Androgenes, a man that's actually not drogenes, he has both simanim of a zachar and a nekeva. Eichel betruma, he could eat truma. So we're talking about an androgenes that a bris was made for him. So mimanavshach, if he's a man or a woman, he's able to eat truma. Ve'ein eichel bekotchim, but he cannot eat kotchim because the halachas Rashi says it's speaking about kotche kotchim. Kotche kotchim could only be eaten by the zacharim that are koyanim, not by a woman. Now the Brisa repeats again. Tumtum ein eichel loy betrume v'loy bekotchim. A tumtum does not eat not trume and not kotchim. Why the Brisa repeats this again, the Gemara will explain. Katani miyas, but what did it say here in the Brisa? Mashuch v'neilat kushumal. This person that pulled back the foreskin, or he's born with a bris, and they didn't do a toughest down bris again. Hare elu eichlin. He can eat trume. To Yufta, the Rav Huna, this refutes what Rav Huna said. What concludes taka to Yufta? This is a refutation of Rav Huna's opinion. This is the Gemara the way it appears over here, but Rashi actually brings that there's another girsa in our Gemara, because from the continuation of the Gemara, it seems like that a moshuch can't eat truma. And here in this Brisa it's saying that he could. So Rashi brings another girsa in this Gemara, that when the Brisa here said that a moshuch could eat truma, this whole Brisa is speaking about the halacha min ha-Torah. And Adarabah, the Gemara is bringing a raya from this Brisa. The Gemara is saying that in this Brisa we see that, like Rav Huna said, that a moshuch min ha-Torah could eat a truma, but only midrabanan there's a gzeira that he can't. So it's actually a raya to Rav Huna, not a refutation to what Rav Huna said. That's another pshat Rashi brings, and Rashi says that it seems to him that pshat is right. Amamar. Now what did it say in the Brisa? Tumtum ein eichel betruma. That a tumtum cannot eat truma, but nashav avadav, his wife or his servants, eichlin, they do eat truma. So the Gemara wants to understand now what's exactly this case. A tumtum has a wife, so nashav the tumtum minale, a wife for a tumtum, how's this even possible? Ilay mid the kaddish, if you're going to say this tumtum. So again, a tumtum is a person that you can't see any simanim if he's a zachar or a nekeva. So he went and he was mekadesh a wife. So now, if you're going to say that that's the story here, the Tanya, as we learned in the Brisa, tumtum shekiddush, a tumtum that went and was mekadesh a woman. So kiddush of kiddushin, the kiddushin takes effect. There's a suffix here. It could be that he's a man, so therefore when he's mekadesh a isha, it could be it takes effect. So we have to be machmer that the kiddushin took effect. And the same in the reverse, niskadesh, if he's being treated like a woman and a man was mekadesh him or her, so then kiddush of kiddushin. So then his kiddushin also took effect. So we see over here regarding a tumtum that there is a kiddushin that takes effect l'chumra. So the Gemara says, "Hey, medamar, when do we say that this kiddushin takes effect l'chumra? We have to be machmer because we don't know if he's a zachar or a nekeva. But l'kula miyamrinan, over here we want to use this also l'kula to say that his noshim, that the wife that he was mekadesh will be mekel and allow her to go and eat truma. If he, for example, is a kohen and he was mekadesh a wife, we're going to say that this kiddushin took effect to allow his wife to eat truma. That's a kula. How could you allow this kiddushin? How could you say that this kiddushin takes effect, even using it for this kula to allow his wife to eat truma? Safek ishu. It's a safek. He might be even a woman himself or herself. Ve'ein isha mekadeshes isha. And so if he's a woman, he can't be mekadesh a woman. So the kiddushin didn't take effect b'chlal. So Abaye explains, there's two answers here. Abaye says that there are two types of people that are in the category of a tumtum. So over here in the Reisha of this Brisa, it's speaking about keshebeitzav nikaris mibachutz. He's not a full tumtum. Part of the avert, the beitzim, the testicles are outside, so therefore we know that he's a zachar. Elamai, he can't make a bris because the other part of the Aver is not there to make the bris, so therefore he himself will not be able to eat truma. He's a adol, but we know that he's a zachar. That's why his avadim or his wife can eat truma. It's one shot. Rava says, my noshov, over here in the ratio, when it talks about a tumtum, it's speaking about a full tumtum. It says that his wife is eating truma, it doesn't mean his wife. When it says noshov imay, it's really referring to his mother. Right? This is a case where you had a Bas Yisrael that married a Kayin, so if she has a son from this marriage, or any child from this marriage to this Kayin, so in that schos, the mother could eat truma. That's always the halacha, and that's what this brayso means. Frekta Gemara imay, it's referring to the mother. Pshita, that's obvious. Anytime you have a child married to a Kayin, so the mother could eat truma. What's the chiddush here? The chiddush here is, I would think to say, Moilid Machal. If this Yisraelis that was married to a Kayin has a child, and this child himself could give birth, maybe only then this child will cause that the mother could eat truma. But if the child that was born from this marriage cannot give birth himself, maybe then the mother does not eat truma, right? And the reason is, right, Rashi here says, because it says Yilid Beisai, uses the term Yilid, maybe that means only someone a child that could give birth. Tashama, that's what the brayso says, that tumtum eina oichel loy betrume, again, kamash malon, that is. Kamash malon, so therefore it comes and it teaches me that even this child that cannot give birth, the mother could still eat truma. Okay, not toshama, it's a separate thing. Now the Gemara goes back. We had over here two pshatim in this brayso. According to the Abaye, the ratio of the brayso is talking about sort of a half a tumtum. And according to Rava, the ratio of the brayso when it mentions tumtum is talking about a regular tumtum. So the Gemara now brings what it says in the Sefer when it repeats the halacha again. So Tashema, what does it say in the Sefer? Tumtum ein oichel le betruma v'le bekotchim. That a tumtum doesn't eat, not truma and not kotchim. So the question over here is, why does the brayso repeat this halacha a second time? So now Bishlei Malabaye, it's understood according to the Abaye why it says it again. Tana Reisha Oral Vadai. In the Reisha, when it talks about a half tumtum, you see that he's really a zachar, so really is an oral. So they are speaking about an oral Vadai. So because you know he's an oral, so the brayso in the Reisha is saying the halacha that he can't eat truma. And then the Katani Seif is Safik oral. And the Seif it speaks about a full tumtum, so he's a Safik. You don't know if he's a zachar or a keva. And it's saying that even regarding a Safik oral, that he cannot eat truma or kotchim. But according to Rava, tumtum the Sefer lamali. Why does it have to say the halacha of a tumtum again in the Sefer if in the Reisha it's speaking about a full tumtum? Says the Gemara, my tumtum oral. When it says tumtum in the Reisha, tumtum over there, again, sorry, not in the Reisha, in the Sefer that is. When it says in the Sefer tumtum, it really meant to say an oral, a full oral. But how does it answer this? If in the ratio when it says a tumtum, it means a suffix, and you say that he can't eat truma, vadai oral achel. You would think that a vadai oral would eat truma. Why does it have to say in the sefer regarding a vadai oral that he would not eat truma? So the Gemara answers, ma tam ka'amar. The sefer is not a repetition, but the sefer is giving the reason. Ma tam tumtum ein oichel betruma. What's the reason why a tumtum cannot eat truma? Because a tumtum is a person that he might need a bris, so therefore he's a suffik oral. And the halach is that an oral cannot eat not truma and not kotchim. That's what the sefer is saying. It's giving the reason for the halacha of what it said in the Reisha. Going back to the halacha that Rav Huna said that a moshuch, a person that pulled his foreskin back, Minatayri he could eat truma, but midrabanan he cannot. So shall we say that this is a machlokes tanoim? It says in the brayso, moshuch, this person that pulled the foreskin back, v'neilat kishumal, according to one gersi, Yegayda said that he was born when he was mahol. V'gershen is gaya kishumal, a ger that he converted and he was already mal from before. V'katan shav is manoi, a cotton that's already past the 8 days when the bris was supposed to be done. Vishar kol animailim, or anybody else that needs a bris to be done for him. Now the Gemara explains right away what that means. Lasuye mi. Lasuye, this comes to include misha yeshloi shtei areilis, a person that's born with 2 foreskins, so they both have to be removed. Ein animailen ela bayim. All of these people, the bris milah, like a regular bris, that's done on the 8th day for a baby, so all of these individuals as well, the bris has to be done by daytime. Rabbi Elazar Shimon says, Bizmanoi, a bris that's being done in its time in the regular way on the 8th day, so that has to be done by day on the 8th day. Shaloi bizmana, a bris that's not being done in the regular time, nimeilim bayayim u'balayla. The bris could be done by day or by night. So now the Gemara focuses on the first case mentioned here in this Braisa, which is the case of the Moshuch when he's doing a bris a second time, not in the regular time on the 8th day. So my love, don't you think, Bahaka Mifliki, what's the basis of the argument whether this Moshuch has to do the bris by day or even by night? So the basis of the argument is as follows. The Marsav HaMoshuch Doiraisa. Rab Lazar Rab Shimon that says that the Moshuch has to do the bris by day, it's because he says that the chiyuv for him to do a bris is min ha-Torah. So just like the bris always has to be done by day, so he also has to do it by day. Marsav HaMoshuch D'Rabbanan, the first opinion of the Braisa is that the Moshuch is only required to do the bris with the Rabbanan, so it can be done by night. It's just because he doesn't look like a mahol, so it can be done by day or by night. So the Gemara doesn't accept this pshat. V'tizbara, is this a good explanation here? Moshuch is not the only case mentioned in this Braisa. You have the Braisa mentions cotton she'avaz manai, a cotton that never had a bris, and it's past the 8 days. Is there anybody that holds that for this cotton, his mitzvah to do the bris is only midrabanan? And you would be able to say this explanation that midrabanan, so it can be done by night? Of course he has to do it min ha-Torah. So what are they arguing about, whether the bris has to be done by day or not? Ela de kule alme, so everybody agrees, Moshuch de Rabbanan. Everybody agrees the mitzvah that when it comes to a Moshuch, so like Rav Huna said, for him the chiyuv to do a bris is only midrabanan. And the cotton shavas manai, and when it comes to a cotton that did not have a bris yet, and it's past the 8 days, dairaisa. Everybody agrees that that's a chiyuv min ha-Torah. And the machlokes in this braisa, they're arguing in the pasuk, the source from where it says that the bris has to be done by day. Ma'asavar. So one opinion over here is, which is Rab Lazar Rab Shimon, he says Dashinan u bayayim. We darshan because when it says bayayim ashmini, it says u bayayim ashmini yimel b'sar lasei. This is the source for the fact that the bris has to be done by day, bayayim, and it says u bayayim with an extra vav. So from this we darshan that not only if the bris is being done actually on the 8th day, but even after the 8th day, it also has to be done by daytime. Omar Sava, the first opinion in the Braisa is Lai Dashinan Ubayayim. We do not darshan the vav of Ubayayim. That's what the argument is about. They're not arguing about the Moshuch, they're arguing about this word Ubayayim, whether you darshan the vav or not. And the Gemara here brings a conversation between Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Lazar, where you see that there was this discussion, and it's based on this, that you see that whether you darshan the Ubayayim, the vav from Ubayayim or not. Kihad, the Yosef, Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan was sitting, v'kadaresh, and he darshaned as follows, that Neisar bizmanoi ein an israf ela bayayim. So you have Neisar that was left over, was allowed to be eaten for 2 days and a night, shnei yamim v'layla echad, and then it was left over for the 3rd day. So in the pasuk over there it says, ubayayim ashlishi be'esh yisaref. Right, so he says that if you're burning it on that actual day, on the 3rd day when it was left over, so if you're burning it on that day, so then you have to fulfill what it says in the pasuk ubayayim, that it should be burnt by day. So ein an israf ela bayayim, it's burnt by daytime. Shaloi bizmanei, but if you did not get to burn the noiser on that day itself, on the 1st day when after it was left over, you're burning it later on, so then you can burn it bein bayayim bein balayla. It doesn't have to be burnt by daytime, it can be burnt whether by day or by night. That was the halacha that Rabbi Yechanan said. Rabbi Lazar asked Rabbi Yechanan on this halacha, and he brought him from another pasuk where it also uses the term bayayim, and we see that bayayim is not dafka on that particular day when the mitzvah is. So he brings from what it says by the bris. So by the bris, I would think only if the bris was on the 8th day that asked that the bris must be by day. How do I know if the bris is on the 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th day, and so on? That it should be by day, Talmud Loima, because there's a vav, so I see that over there it has to be done always by daytime. So what Rabbi Lazar is asking Rabbi Yechanan is that over here, benigeh to the Naisar, the pasuk uses the term Viha Naisar. There's an extra vav there as well. So I should learn from that extra vav to say that Naisar has to always be burnt by Yom HaShlishi, like it says there, on the day. And then he continues and he asks Rabbi Yechanan, even according to the opinion that there's not darshan of vav, we had before that Rabbi Akiva darshans every extra vav in the Torah, but not everybody agrees that you have to darshan an extra vav. So even the opinion that says that you don't darshan a vav, but vav hey darish, if there's an extra vav and a hey, like over here by Naisar it says Viha Naisar, So because there's both two extra letters, everybody agrees that you have to darshan this. So therefore he's asking Rabbi Yochanan, why he's saying that only on the day, the third day when it was left over, then it has to be burnt by day, but following that it doesn't. Shouldn't we understand from the drasha that it says by bris, that over here as well, that it always has to be burnt by day? Ishtik. Rabbi Yochanan was quiet, he didn't answer this question. So again, just the continuation of the Gemara here, the point the Gemara was bringing this up for is to show you that there's this drasha of the vav of ubayayin that teaches you by a bris that not only on the 8th day, whenever you make a bris, it has to be done during the day. Okay, but now getting back to the story here, Rabbi Yochanan did not respond to Rabbi Elazar. Basa the Nafik, after Rabbi Elazar went out, Amalei Rabbi Yochanan l'Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan turns to Rish Lakish and he tells him, Ra'isi leBen Pedas, I see Ben Pedas, this is Rabbi Elazar, his name was Ben Pedas. He is, Rashi says that he was an Amayra, right? You have Rabbi Elazar, which is a Tana, but this is Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas, which was an Amayra, and he was actually a student of Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says about Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas, Sheyeshev v'dayrish, that he sits and he's darshaning the psukim, k'maisha mipia gvura, as if he's receiving this directly from Moshe Rabbeinu, from the Eibishter. So Rashi says, in other words, he's darshaning over here these psukim. Rabbi Yochanan thought Rabbi Elazar is darshaning these psukim on his own. That you have the viha neisar. This is not very common that you have an Amayra that should come and make these drashas on his own. Usually this is based on Tanoim darshan psukim this way. Rabbi Elazar is asking Rabbi Yochanan and is darshaning the psukim the way the Tanoim usually darshan the drasha, and they received it from Moshe Misinai. So Rabbi Yochanan wasn't sure if you should rely on this question of Rabbi Elazar, where's there the source that you actually darshan the psukim this way? Amalei Rish Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan, Didehi, this drasha that Rabbi Elazar darshan, do you think that it's his own drasha that he was saying? Masniti, this is a braisa. So Rabbi Yochanan asks, Heiche, where's this braisa that it says that this drasha that he said? Tanelei b'teiris kainim. So he told him that this is taught in teiris kainim. It says over there clearly this drasha that Rabbi Elazar brought. So Nafak, after Rabbi Yochanan heard this, he went out. Tanya b'tlasa yoyme. He learned the entire teiris kainim in 3 days, and then v'savra b'tlasa yoyme. B'tlasa yarcha, that is. And then for another 3 months, he went and learned it again to explain, to understand well all the details of what it says in Teiris Kainim. Okay, this is the conclusion of this story. Coming back, the Gemara brings here another halacha, b'nigeya to a odol. Going back, we had before in the Gemara, it said b'nigeya to a odol, that they sprinkled upon him the waters from the Para Aduma. Even though he's an odol, the waters that you sprinkle upon him are metayir him. Here, it's going to talk about an odol that he is doing the sprinkling. So now Rabbi Elazar, odol shehiza, a odol that sprinkles the water of the Para Aduma, hazah kesheira. The hazah that he did is good, is kosher. Why? Mididava tful yoim. We compare this to a tful yoim, a person that was tamei and he goes to the mikveh, and by going to the mikveh he's tired already, but he can't eat. He has to wait until at night to eat from truma. So this tful yoim sha'afa pishasa betruma. Even though he's not allowed to eat truma until at night, kosher bepara. But nevertheless, he's allowed to do the aveda of the Para Aduma. He could sprinkle the waters of the Para Aduma, which the Gemara will bring later the source for this. So we compare and say as follows. Again. So this is already a question actually, but the Gemara is comparing it over here. Just like a tful yaim, so he's asked to eat truma, so he's kosher. He's kosher to eat. He's kosher to do the aveda of the Para Aduma. So too b'negei to an odol. An odol as well is kosher to do the aveda and to sprinkle the waters of the Para Aduma. Fragt the Gemara, malat tful yaim shekein muter b'maiser. Tful yaim is different. Tful yaim is a person that's allowed to eat meiser. So you see that there's a certain advantage that he has. So maybe that's why he's kosher to sprinkle the waters of the Para Aduma. By a person that's an odol, he's not allowed to eat meiser. Says the Gemara, Atu anan la achila kamrinon. Are we bringing over here a halacha where whether he can eat or not eat is relevant? That's not relevant at all. Anan lenegia kamrinon. We're talking about touching the waters of the Para Aduma to sprinkle it, and therefore we're bringing from this that at tful yaim is not allowed to touch truma. That's our limit. And the Gemara explains, ma tful yaim, so not tzakav v'chaymer. If it comes to a tful yaim, she'asa b'negia de truma, that he's not allowed to even touch truma. Muter bepara, but he's allowed to touch the waters of the Para Aduma and sprinkle it. Odol shemuter b'negia, an odol, even if he's not allowed to eat truma, but he's allowed to touch the truma, ein edin shemuter bepara. So for sure, it should be allowed for him to touch the waters of the Para Aduma to sprinkle it. Tanya Nami Achi, we learned this in a Braisa as well. Ara Shehiza, a oral that sprinkled the waters, Hazase Kesheira, his Azah is kosher. When I saw it, there was a story that actually happened that a oral sprinkled the waters of a paraduma, vehechshire chachamim azase, and the chachamim said that his Azah is kosher. Like this halacha of Rabbi Lazar. But the Gemara now brings from a Braisa where it says not so. Meisvei, it says in a Braisa, tumtum shekidesh, a tumtum sanctified the waters of the paraduma. So this is not the sprinkling, but this is being mekadesh the waters, you put in the ashes into the water and he prepares this water. Kiddushe pasal. So a tumtum, so when he's mekadesh it, it's pasal. Why? Mipnei shu safek adol, and because we don't know, you might need a bris, and va'adol pasal lekadesh. A adol is not allowed to be mekadesh the waters. V'andregenis shekidesh, and andregenis, so you don't know if he's a zachar or a nekeva, so he's mekadesh the waters, kiddushe kosher. So the kiddush, so he sanctifies the waters, it is kosher because, according to the Tanakama, even a woman is allowed to prepare the waters of the paraduma. Rabbi Yudah says, Af andregenis shekiddush, kiddush of psulim. And andregenis as well, that was mekadesh, prepared the waters. The waters is going to be pasul mipnei shesafik isha, because an andregenis is a person that might be a isha, and the isha psula, melekadesh. And a woman is not allowed to prepare the waters. And the Gemara will soon explain this machlokes. But what do we see here? Katani mia, it says in this braisa, oral, v'safik oral. Whether you're an oral or a safik oral, pasam malakadish. You're not allowed to prepare the waters for the paraduma. So the Gemara understands, just like he's not allowed to prepare the waters for the paraduma, so he's also not allowed to sprinkle the waters of the paraduma. So how could Rabbi Lazar say that he is allowed? Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef answers, Hi Tana, the Tana of this brayso that says that an oral can't prepare or sprinkle the waters. So Tana the Bei Rabbi Kiva who? He's a Tana from the students of Rabbi Kiva. Their marbi leila oral ketame. Rabbi Kiva compares an oral to a tame that he's mamish exactly the same like a tame. The Tanya Rabbi Kiva, as we learned before, what did Rabbi Kiva say? From where do we know that an oral can't eat truma? So he says ish. L'Rabbi Sa'aral. We learned that from the pasuk where it says ish that it includes an aral as well. What is it talking about in that pasuk of ish? The continuation of the pasuk over there, it says that if he's a tzerua or he's a zav, meaning that he's tamei, so he can't eat truma. And we're marbe from there that an aral can't eat truma as well. So what the Gemara is saying is, just like when it comes to a person that's tamei, not only could he not eat the truma, but he also is not allowed to touch the truma, an aral is going to be the exact same as a person that's tamei. He can't even touch the truma. Right, but if you remember, we had before, according to Rabbi Lazar, he didn't learn it out from ish. He learned it out from a different source. He learned it out from Korban Pesach, that you make a Gzeidah of the Korban Pesach. So according to Rabbi Lazar, even if an adult can't eat truma, he's still allowed to touch the truma. So, but over here, this brayso that says that he can't do the details of paraduma is going according to Rabbi Kiva. Amar Rav said, Have Yosefna kamed Rav Yosef. I was sitting in front of Rav Yosef, v'kashili, and I had a question about this. Le'lishtamet tana. That you don't find anywhere that a Tana should slip and say this concept. And they're listening to teach me this halacha according to Rabbi Kiva, ha'oral ve'atame, that a oral and a tame go together. That they're in the same category. They both can't eat truma and they can't touch truma. And v'leime Rabbi Kiva, and we would say that would be Rabbi Kiva. In other words, what the Gemara is saying is, this is a very big chiddush to say that a oral not only can't eat truma, but he can't even touch truma. It's interesting that you don't find that this should be taught ever anywhere that according to Rabbi Kiva, they're mamish the same. So the Gemara asks, V'loi, do we not find that an oral and a tame are not put together? V'haketani, but we learned, this is a mission in the beginning of Chagige, ha'oral v'ha'tamei, person without a bris or a person that's tamei, both of them, pturim in a re'iyah. They're patur from being oile regel to the Beis HaMikdash. So here we see they are put together. So maybe that's according to Rabbi Kiva. So the Gemara answers, no, that's not compared to what we're speaking about over here. Asa mishom demois. Over there, reason why he can't be oile regel is of a completely different reason. It's not because he's compared to a tame, but because a oral has his mos by the fact that he has a arla, and therefore over there he can't be oile regel. But we never find that it says anywhere when you get to truma that it puts a oral and a tame together, mamish in the same category. Now the Gemara goes back to the machlokes in the brayso that I mentioned before regarding an androgynous. Basically, the machlokes is whether a woman could prepare the waters for the paraduma. Machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda. V'azul l'tamayo, so they follow their reasoning as follows. The Tanya will learn in the brayso, kol ksherim l'kadesh. Everybody is kosher to prepare the waters of the paraduma. Chutz micheres sheite v'katan. Only a cheres sheite v'katan cannot. Rabbi Yehuda machsher b'katan. Rabbi Yehuda says a cotton can. But a paisel be isha or androgenes. And a isha and androgenes, that's a suffix that she could be a woman, they are not allowed to prepare the waters of the paraduma. My time the Rabbanon. What's the reason of the Rabbanon that a woman could prepare the waters? Tichsev, because the pasuk says v'lakchu l'tamei ma'afar sreifas achatos. So what do we learn from here? Is that the Hanoch, the psili ba'asifa psulin b'kiddush. Those that are puzzled to gather the ashes of the paraduma, they are also pasul b'kiddush. They are also not allowed to sanctify the waters. But Hanoch, the ksherim ba'asifa, those that are kosher to gather the ashes of the paraduma, ksherim b'kiddush, they are also allowed to sanctify the waters. So Rashi here brings that when it comes to gathering the ashes of the paraduma, it says over there v'asaf ish tahor. So it has to be v'asaf ish tahor. It teaches me that it cannot be a cheresh shaita v'katan. That's so it excludes a cotton, but a woman though could gather the waters together. As the Rashi brings the Gemara in Yuma, we learned this. The Gemara over there learns out the drasha. So therefore, just like when it comes to the gathering of the ashes of the para aduma, a woman is allowed to do this. So too, according to the Tanakama, a woman is allowed. Okay. So that's the opinion of the Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda, Amalach, Rabbi Yehuda tells you, Im keinei mekra v'lokach. If so, the pasuk should say v'lokach. My v'lokchu. Why does it use a plural term v'lokchu? Da afila hanoch the psulim hasam kshedim. The pasuk of here is coming to say that even those that are pasul before, in other words, even a cotton that we said before, it says ish and it excludes a cotton, but over here because it says v'lokchu and it uses a plural term, so I say that even a cotton would be kosher. Yachi ishanami. If so, if it says v'lokchu, a plural term, why don't I say that even a woman is allowed? So he says no, because it says v'nosan. It says v'nosan, and it's v'nisana. It uses a lashon zachar v'nosan, and not v'nisana. So a woman is not allowed. V'Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan say iksiv v'lokach v'nosan. If we would say v'lokach and v'nosan, so then hava mineh, I would think to say shakol chad v'yov chad. That only if one takes the water and gathers it together and puts it into the ashes inside, and the yavchad, and one places it inside. So then I would think that only then is it kosher. If two people do it together, then it would not be kosher. So therefore, kasav rachmana v'lakchu. The Torah writes v'lakchu that even two could do it together. So you can't be medayik anything from the word v'nosan as opposed to v'nosnu, or v'lakchu as opposed to v'lakach, because the Torah wants to write specifically v'lakchu, not in order to include a cotton, but in order to make it clear that even two people could do it together. Because Rachmana v'lakchu v'nosnu, on the other hand, if the Torah would write the plural term for both, v'lakchu and v'nosnu, have a minute the shakli trei v'yavi trei, that only two have to gather together and two have to put it into the water, only then will it be good. Because Rachmana v'lakchu v'nosan, so therefore the Torah writes this term v'lakchu and v'nosan, that fill shakli trei v'yav chad, that even if two took it, they took the ashes and only one placed it into the water, it'll be tired. So the point is that according to the Tanakama, the plural term of v'lakchu doesn't teach me anything. It can't teach me that you include a cotton as well. It's just coming to say that even two people could do it together. Let's just finish off one point of here. The last thing that the Gemara darshans from the psukim by para aduma. V'hiza hatoir alatame. It says that one that's toir sprinkles it on one that's tamei. So this word hatoir is an extra word, because it's self-understood that it's speaking about someone that's tar, based on what it says before in the psukim there. Why does it say the word hatoir? Tar miklal shehu tameh. Tar means that from this I understand that he was tameh. Limed, this is the source from where I see that al tvul yaim shekasher bepara. That a person that is a tvul yaim, he went to the mikveh, but he didn't wait until at night to be able to eat trumeh, that he's kosher to be able to sprinkle the waters of the para aduma, like we said before already.